And we'll open the meeting at 5:35 of Youth Services. Then we have Jack. And it was Susan Christoph.
Yes.
And we have Denise. And Barbara. And Rebecca Allen.
Thank you.
Okay. And on our agenda, we have approval of minutes. I don't have a copy of those.
Okay, I don't remember seeing them
I
on
don't-
the email either. So
I don't either.
yeah.
So I don't think the minutes one, so we'll have to. And you know what?
I don't either. But the last meeting.
The last meeting
I
might not-
about who's gonna be the chair, so I'm sure nobody took. The intense conversation.
Yes, yes, crickets.
Okay, I'll assume there's no minutes. If I find any, we'll worry about it later. Audience of citizens? I don't think we have any. Audience of citizens, no one in the chat. So nobody. Committee chair, so where we left off last time was the need of a chair. And from my discussion with Rebecca, would you like to?
I will attempt to be the chair. Yeah,
Does anybody want to arm wrestle Rebecca for the chair? Well, thank you, Rebecca. That would be great. Does someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for Rebecca to be chair.
So, Denise, motions. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Jack. Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Yeah.
Katie? All right, so you're good, so Janice? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And are you abstaining, Rebecca? or are you-
well, I'm in favor of myself. I vote for myself.
6-0. I don't know. 6-0. Yes, okay, great, well, thank you, Rebecca. That'll be a big help to get this back on track. And as chair, would you like to take over the meeting, Rebecca?
I will attempt to take over the meeting. Of course, we don't even have.
Good. You guys getting that?
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I'll keep taking notes if you like.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So the next item on the agenda is committee secretary. I'm not sure if we've ever had one. Denise, do you know? if we've ever
We
had
did have, I don't remember ever them saying it was the secretary, but somebody had agreed to take the minutes at one point.
Why don't you discuss it?
Oh, sure. Does anybody want to be the committee secretary?
I'm happy to take them.
Oh, okay, excellent.
I'll bring my laptop.
So I'll wait till Mark comes back with the agenda. And Barbara, can you just remind me what your position is at the school? Are you
I'm
the,
the director of student services
okay,
for all.
oh, nice.
So I go to the high schools as well.
All right, excellent. We definitely need input from the school.
And what did I miss?
Barbara agreed to take notes. I don't know if she would want to be the secretary, but she did agree to take notes for the meetings.
Okay.
So next on the agenda is communication and collaboration with Horse Porter School, AHM, the community, and the town leadership. I'm not sure exactly what we wanted to talk about.
Well, I know, Katie, I talked to Maria Garrett, the superintendent, and she's gonna get back to me with what's the best way for you to communicate with the school.
Okay, okay.
Key contact for collaboration or if the school identifies someone in the community or family that needed assistance on what the school could provide and wanted to bring you in. And Maria's gonna look into that and get back to me. And then
Okay.
I'll bring you up to speed too. So I don't know if that'll be Barbara, if that'll be Sherry, if that'll be,
So Sherry Rivard used to work for AHM
right,
and she resigned in June. And then our school psychologist passed away unexpectedly at the very end of June. So I advertised for a school psychologist. We had 0 applicants. So toward the end of July, I reached out to Sherry and I asked, would you want to take a position here at the school for 1 hour, for 1 year until we can fill this position? And so she is now an employee of our school, just, for a 1-year contract. So she's doing our counseling and we're outsourcing at this time all of our psychological testing.
Oh, wow. So an AHM hasn't refilled
Sherry,
Sherry.
so they just refilled the Sherry's position, so that person just started this week.
and who is that?
Her name is Christina. And it's a hyphenated name, and I'll protect you on that. It's Bugsby Merrick, Eric, H-E-R-R-I-C, I think. But I'll get the correct spelling for you.
Christina Herrick?
I think it's Bugsby, I think it's Butzghy hyphen Herrick.
Okay, and she's now
So she's
the
now-
AHM,
She's the AHM social worker, so that's
Social-
who will be handling JRB and all that, but which is kind of nice because her office is about Sherry, so Sherry's able to actually bring them to speed on everything. And it's really good,
okay, so she replaced Sherry,
right, which is kind of confusing since Sherry is still there now.
and Sherry is now the school
She's school counselor.
counselor.
Sherry's with us now for 3.5 days.
3.5 days. And how many days is Christina?
She's 2.5.
2. Okay. All right, so that. And I know there's still talk of adding counseling.
So we just applied for a grant for about $150,000 to do some additional work with Columbia. That would be after hours from our school. The grant would have provided us with full partnership with AHM because right now it's not full partnership. In addition, we would have had another 2.5 days of a social worker who we had hoped would be working after school hours so that families in the community could utilize the social worker to, for those parents who want to be part of it. And the person was going to be staying till about 7:30 on the nights that he or she worked. However, we did not get the grant. We were rejected. And so I called the state and they said it was really competitive and it was awarded to more urban districts. But she really encouraged us to try again. So there's going to be another grant coming out in the spring that we'll try for again. So I mean, we do see a need to help families navigate some parenting types of things. I don't know if that's something Katie does, parenting groups, and some after hours counseling when you want to bring in family members into the counseling. It's kind of like a wraparound service we were looking to provide. So we'll try again.
Okay. And then is that something you'll look into during the budget process? Yeah.
I would try, so some of it is, the school wouldn't wanna fund something that can serve, like AHM can serve, clients and town members up to the age of 26. Whereas the school, we need to make sure we're just working with our students, so. I know it was a debate during the budget season, whether the town wanted to become full members of AHM or not. It's something I think that's still being discussed, among the FIPAC folks. So at this time, they did not opt to do so.
Well, my understanding is for full membership, AHM would have to clearly define what that gets us above and beyond what we're getting for our half membership. And I would think the school would have to drive that. Because it's still you.
Right, although it does go older than what public schools do, so.
But as a result, we went the route of bringing Katie as our social worker for the town.
But Katie was on board before the last discussion
Right.
about
This was
whether or not to
like-
become full members. I'm gonna say this, just I hope it doesn't come across wrong, but I'm still confused about the purpose of this committee right now.
The last time I
Well-
attended this committee, there was discussion about the purpose of this committee.
Yeah,
And so I must have missed the one that was in between.
I don't think we had one in between.
No,
Yeah, that was
they,
the last
they,
part.
because we didn't have a chair, it kind of fell apart.
Right.
So in reality, you're right. We're in this quasi zone where the other towns send members to AHM's meeting
Mhm.
to, and since we're not a full member, we haven't been doing that. We created our own new.
Gotcha.
Well, not really, because I was going to AHM. I've been going for it since the very beginning of the conversations with Columbia.
As a board member.
Well, I became a board member due to
Okay.
our work here. So it started here, and then because Columbia joined, they wanted a Columbia board member, so I became a board member. So the other towns, they are full members, we're not, it is different. However, none of them have separate committees like this as a town. They contract with AHM to provide services, and AHM provides the services. At some point along the way, I had been told that we needed to have a committee because we get the JRB grant from money from the state. But then that wasn't actually accurate.
The GRD goes to AHM.
Yeah, and I think that the Columbia still applied, and maybe they still do, or they did in the beginning, applied for the grant, but that grant money that Columbia received just went in to pay our part of with AHM. So I don't know, the other towns don't have it, I don't know, I'm. Along the way, it didn't matter to me, I was like, fine, it's really nice to talk to some people in town and and, I would go to the board member meetings and I would bring information back and vice versa. And so it was fine. It seemed like no harm done. But then it sort of came up, when it came up for discussion, when Bill O'Brien stepped down and it came up, does Columbia want to become full members at AHM or not? And I'll be brutally honest here, and the town of Columbia, whoever powers that be, I don't even know, but decided to have one of the select persons kind of do their research and bring a proposal to the Board of Selectmen. We weren't even consulted, so what is the purpose?
And when did that happen?
When this was all falling apart, right when Bill O'Brien stepped down. So
last spring, right?
I think we stepped down in December or
Yeah,
January.
right when it was December.
Okay. Yeah, and then right after that, so Judy Ortiz as a select person. However that came to be, and I don't know, and it doesn't matter, but Judy Ortiz became the point person to do research and decide if Columbia should become members with AHM or not, full members or not. That's how she presented it to me. And so I kind of felt like, well, if we're a town committee that's charged by our Board of Selectmen, then why are you not asking us our
And
opinion?
that never came to board something for a discussion and vote.
Well, I don't know how it happened.
So we haven't discussed it, and I've been waiting. What I told Tressa is if a full membership was ever to be considered, AHM would have to explain what full membership gives us above and beyond the relationship we have now, because we don't have, we're not in Rain,
Correct,
where all the services mostly are.
correct.
Right.
Right. Right, so we're out on our own, kind of doing our own thing, and I explained to Tressa, if a full membership were required, my understanding would be, it would mainly be the school that would have to see some benefit in an extra $50,000 at least. Because I don't see what the benefit outside the school would be.
I had some ideas.
Well, throw it out. What do you think?
I did talk with, I shared this with Tressa and I shared it with Judy Ortiz. Personally, I think that Columbia, our kids, once they leave Porter, it's been easy for them to get lost because they're not all together. And it's harder for the school to kind of keep their hands on
I
everybody.
mean, when they're at possible freedoms.
Yeah, yeah. So my idea, my dream world would be that if we became full members and spent more money, those extra dollars, not that Porter doesn't need more because they could use more too, I'm sure, but let's try to focus on the high school level kids that would require a lot of work and creativity, but there's still opportunities for life skills kind of programming, employment vocational kind of programming, more positive youth development stuff, community service stuff. There's all kinds of stuff that could be done after school hours, community based, that are youth service bureaus are supposed to be positive youth development, prevention and intervention. So the positive youth development stuff gets sort of left behind because as a society and everybody, we're reactive. When there's a problem, we try to fix it. But the beauty of a youth service bureau is supposed to be, don't wait till there's a problem, do positive youth development up front so that your kids have positive opportunities, positive community connections, all that kind of stuff. Keep them out of, it's court diversionary, keep them out of court. So I view it as there are opportunities that AHM could provide. I don't know exactly what that would look like. I did share with Tressa what my ideas were. They would not be easy to accomplish. I understand that, especially with kids all over the place and, you know, figuring out where those things could happen and how to encourage them to get engaged.
Now, they do come back to Porter as a hub.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
you know.
And now there's space at Porter, like it's right, there's empty classrooms. Oh, not anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but I mean, they could walk to the Yeoman's Hall.
Yeah, yeah, there's, the town has opportunities for space, but anyway, that's a probably not even a relevant conversation right now, but because my original question was about this committee.
Mhm.
If the town is gonna make decisions and I don't know, have Judy Ortiz present at the Board of Selectmen meeting about it, what's this committee for?
Well, and Judy, unless I'm forgetting, I don't think she ever presented.
She may not have, because actually the last conversation I had with her, and I'm not trying to blame Judy in any way, somebody asked her to do it. You know, it wasn't something she just created on her own. I just know that she was the one that was asking questions and having conversations. So the last I had spoke with her, which has been several months now, but it was the fiscal budget, everything else, timing didn't work. It needed to be, the package would have had to been ready within like 2 weeks, and that just wasn't gonna happen. So it was, well, let's pass this year's budget, and then in the upcoming year or two, if we wanna do full membership, we would need AHM to submit a proposal. What would that look like, you know, and then go from there.
And that was part of the last time
Yes,
that she and Dick say that we're having with us, as well as the chair question.
right.
So I do see what you're saying, is that I feel like there's duplication of services or the potential for duplication of services, that we're here but not having any voice. Yeah, then that's what I
Yeah.
agree with you on that.
Right,
Denise, when you were attending the AHM kind of meetings there, was it similar to what we kind of do here?
I mean, it's a board meeting, it's the, so they go over the financial information, they talk about, what they've been doing in terms of the programming, what their plans are to do. They have, there's all strategic, they're very formalized. There's strategic, 5-year strategic plans that they work out. They have consultants come in to address fiscal growth, sustainability, all that kind of stuff. So the board meetings were, all the different categories,
Right.
of the physical building itself, if there needs to be repairs, the board would talk about, do we have the money to do the repairs and whatever. Staffing issues, all kinds of things like that. But not, usually the conversations weren't broken down by town, except when it came to Columbia. And those weren't usually typically big conversations. It was, oh, we're gonna do this event. And I would say, can Columbia come? Just to make sure, because we're part members, not full members. And 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes, it would be open to Columbia, but usually those events would be held at Ram High or, somewhere. So getting the word out to Columbia families, I know some Columbia families participated in some, probably not a lot, but it's the opportunity. Yeah. I don't know if that was the kind of information you were looking for.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we didn't have this committee anymore, how would Columbia, how would they interact with AHM, not being full members?
Well, that
It
was,
doesn't seem like it mattered whether or not we were full members,
I will say that it was, I never felt like, and most of the other people on the board, if they joined after Columbia was already part of the board, wouldn't even realize that we weren't full members.
Yeah.
Because most of the conversations included all 4 towns. Our name is not in the title, but any of like the strategic planning, Columbia, Andover, Hebron, like every town was addressed.
I have mentioned that a lot of Columbia residents don't realize that we are part of AHM. And I've said that to Teresa and folks there. And I said, come up with a sham or a different type of
Yeah.
and she said they would not do that, but would be considering that with full membership.
With full membership.
Yeah,
But without full membership, I wouldn't change the name either.
right.
And it is unfortunate that Columbia people still, this has been a lot of years now, and Columbia people still don't really recognize that we're part of AHM.
I think it's because of the name. You know what I mean? And AHM stands for town name.
I know, it does, and it's kind of a no-win, because, and like you were saying, I'm not 100% convinced that full membership is needed for Columbia, because we get a lot for our money right now.
yes.
So what I've been told though is that they're kind, being extra kind.
They are being
should
extra
not be doing what they do.
Yes and no, because they'll, for example, they have a preschool program. And so that wasn't part of our original contract discussions that Columbia families could utilize their preschool program. But when they have openings in their preschool program, they definitely open it to Columbia because it's a pay for service program. So it's mutually beneficial. Columbia has an option and they can get
So
some.
as long as there's
Yeah.
openings, if it's full, they go.
Yeah, I don't know that they prioritize the Hebron families anymore, or the other families anymore necessarily, but yeah, but it is mutually beneficial. They open up their summer theater to us, because that's a fee for service activity, but it's also gives Columbia kids an opportunity. So, blame them for charging money for certain things, or, that's how you sustain.
Well, this gets back to my pushback on Crescent. That you want full membership, you have to sell the board of selectmen and the board of ed. What benefit that is for Columbia.
And AHM had not really developed anything because Columbia wasn't asking for it. It was one of those, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. For years, we kind of went along and I still, we could, in my personal opinion, we could maintain what we have, and I think we get good bang for our buck. It's better than what we had before, which was nothing. But if they could put together a beautiful package, that could also be worth their money too. They weren't pushy for Columbia to join.
Is this ever discussed in Board of Ed?
It's come up, it came up when, I think in the spring when we were looking at budget season. But I know some of the services that are provided by HM wouldn't be funded by board, it wouldn't fall under Board of Ed necessarily, you know.
Right.
So it's been discussed, but it was mostly during that budget season. Well, we want to be, you know, full members, but we want the Board of Ed to pay for it, no, we need town to pay for it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The other towns have that same fight back and forth about school paying, town paying, that kind of
Right,
stuff.
and I live in Hebron, so I know HM through them too.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're saying Hebron and Andover will have the same discussion where the funds should come for HM,
Yeah,
whether it's the town side or the Board of Ed side?
yeah, it comes up, you know, I think some years is more of a battle than other years, from what I hear, you know, but they.
But they fund it, they do.
They fund it, they always, since the beginning, they've always funded it, and, you know, I think it may have shifted in some towns, the percentage that comes out of which budget or whatever over the years, but, yeah.
Back to what is our role?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't really have a lot to add to that because I'm relatively new to this committee, maybe a year and a half, and we only meet, you know, maybe 5 times a year. But it sounds like if we're getting, it sounds like it's more important for us to have some representation at AHM than it is necessarily for the committee, for this committee.
Yeah, and we do have Gail Mulligan, who is a Columbia resident and who is on the AHM Board of Directors. It would be nice to have a second Columbia person.
Did Gail Mulligan used to live in Hebron?
Yes,
Okay, because I was like, I knew Gail Mulligan from Hebron.
Is that
Okay,
when
yes,
was a
she
state
did.
rep?
Yeah, well, I think she was a state rep then, and we
Yeah.
didn't live too far from her.
yeah. Yeah, so she's new on the board, she's during COVID, middle, you know, everything is before COVID, during COVID, after. During COVID, she joined the Board of Directors there, so she hasn't been on the board very long there, but she's a go-getter, so I think it's good for Columbia to have her there.
Okay.
So the community, and one of your agenda items was the communication piece, and so the other towns all do it without a committee. And even with our committee, often, so I'm on the board and this committee, but I would find out about conversations, you know, Tressa's working with the principal or director of special ed or whatever, different meetings, different conversations with you, you know, that don't involve either the board of directors or this committee. That communication stuff happens anyway, as just a nature, a part of the work. So again, I don't know that you need this committee to facilitate that communication, you know?
Well, what I've seen, so I've been here 6 years, is that this committee mainly was give a report of what's happening with Trooper Carly, give a report of what's happening with the principal, with our social worker. So it's kind of was here's everything that's happening so you're all in the know. And then we plan one event a year to help the community.
Yeah,
And whatever that was, we brainstorm an whole event. And then,
and the attendees would be our committee.
Yeah.
What kind of events did you hold? I was.
I remember one year, it was a really good one, but unfortunately, there's probably only 30 people in the audience. There was a state trooper, a young woman, who, part of her job at the state police is to educate communities on the dangers of phone apps that children put on their phones. And she said, I'll show you 20 pictures of a calculator. only one's a calculator. The rest are fake app symbols that take kids to places parents would not want to go. And they said, she scared the crap out of me.
She was good.
She was really good.
She was
And she
good.
said, these kids are so good that they're putting apps on their bus on the way to school on their phone, and then they're taking the app off before they get home in case the parents scan for apps that shouldn't be there. And she showed the dangers of these tracking apps, because she said, now look at this. This child knows that all her friends are at a party because she can see where all her friends are, and she's not there. So it creates bullying and social stress. And she just went on and on.
Yeah.
And we're thinking, oh my God, this is terrible. So it was quite an eye opener.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd say that one
That was,
should be brought back.
that was a good one. That was a good one. So internet safety, and AHM
Yes.
had done an internet safety presentation as well at RAM. That was one that this committee had put together. Bill, I should say Bill, because he should get the credit, because he's the one that did all the work and found this trooper lady that came. And I do think our presentation was probably better than the AHM one was at that time. But I also think, so duplication of services, to me, I'm wondering, okay, we are paying AHM. They're doing an internet safety program. They did it at Raynham, Columbia was invited, but if we had said, hey, can you also have it done here? I think they probably would. So part of me along the way also was wondering, like, okay, so why are we trying to do all this work when we're paying AHM? Let's just say.
Or have more representation on the board to vote for
Well, those,
services coming over the phone.
for those things, we wouldn't even have to do that because we just have to ask.
Yeah. And then maybe promote it somehow.
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah, yeah.
So Jack, what do you think you're getting out of this exciting committee? Is this just on your incredible article you're gonna write to get into UConn?
You're like, why? Well, they'll never go into community. college.
I mean, I joined the committee, has to be about a year ago.
Yeah.
No, 3 years ago.
Oh, okay, all right.
It was during my freshman year. After a talk about vaping, and I was invited to join the committee to try and get my perspective as a high school student. And I mean, as far as this conversation, I do feel that, at least in the time that I've been on the committee, there hasn't been much that we've been able to actually accomplish. I'm partly because of COVID, but also even when we were having regular meetings, I don't know that I couldn't tell you anything that we substantially did.
And that was our rec director's feelings too, Mark.
Yeah.
Didn't think we were accomplishing much.
I
We
think
get
it was-
together, have a rah-rah,
Yeah,
slap each other on the back, tell horror stories and go home.
yeah,
Oh, I'm glad this hasn't happened.
providing updates, but we're only providing updates to each other and
Like
it doesn't go anywhere.
We're talking
Yeah,
to the choir.
yeah.
Katie, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we all agree our time is valuable and we want to add value with it. So it's good to, kind of be touching base and figure out how to be effective and efficient. For me, as someone who works pretty independently, like it is inspiring to, hear people who are passionate about wanting to do things specifically around prevention, because that's one of the hardest sells. I think it's one of the most difficult things to kind of rally around without an unfortunate event, and we don't want to be in that situation. And it takes a village, and I see from my point of view, I'm concerned about, how can we have our channels really clear among all of us, whether that's me, the school, what's going on in the rec programs and AHM. And I'm hopeful there's a way to, kind of refine that and make it stronger. And it doesn't have to be this specific committee. If it's not this committee, I would love just a different community group at least, because what like this week, for example, I had a webinar with some colleagues from other towns, and a number of them, or a few of them, work in youth and family services, so a little different of a focus than me, but just kind of hearing their general feedback of like, oh yeah, the school year started and there's way more physical fights, there's fight clubs. Oh yeah, the school year started and we still have students who have opted out of in-person learning, and we're losing track of those students. So just kind of like, that's how I'm getting in touch with what issues could be at the school. So it's good for me to have that channel. And I might put it more like, how can we collaborate? It's not really, yeah, we don't want to duplicate services, but if we both have programs around vaping, how can we collaborate with it? Do we do it as a 2-part series? I'd love to see that. Columbia hosts one, market it as part 2s and at AHM. So really trying to think of how we can work together. I wonder if one of the challenges of blending maybe AHM and Columbia, I think we both get funding from regional local prevention councils, and we're just, the way the lines are drawn, we just happen to be in a different region than Hebron. So like Columbia, we apply for the grant, we get funding for prevention. There's a lot of room of what population we can focus on, but we report to a different region than say like AHM does. So I wonder if that's, sometimes why we have similar programming. But in any case, Columbia, I think we're dedicated to still grabbing the grant money we can get around prevention. And, I'm more than happy to, try to, direct that, with this group's creative ideas. I've done a lot at the senior center just because that's been the one place that's been open to hosting things, that's been open to marketing for me, but it's a struggle to get people to come to events and get involvement. Last year it gave stuff out at one of the races that the rec department hosted. It was easy to work with Mark to do that. Basically, anybody who wants to work with me to help promote stuff out, or anything you want to tell me about issues that are going on or resources that are happening, that's what I want. That's how I see this being useful. If it's a committee that's formal, great. If it's something else we want to do a little more organically, that's great too. So I don't know if any of that, if you have feedback or something sounds off or ideas there.
Well, it sounds like you appreciate the communication and collaboration that happens in these committees, the sharing of information. But as long as that still happens, you would be okay with this committee disbanding?
Well, I think, like we've seen, like the committee, with some transitions and kind of taking the step back, like just naturally, I think with transitions and taking a step back, like it's just not going to be maybe like the most productive months of the group, no matter what. So I think, what I'm saying is the communication and collaboration, there's room for that to ramp up more. But, people are showing up, you all are showing up, and that's like half the battle, so.
Yeah. And now we have a chairperson.
Yes, yeah. Who took the reins?
Yeah, we need to give some either new members or somehow reach out to the ones that we have. I thought wasn't Dan like in another state for a while? Because he used to, I thought he used to zoom in from like Florida or something.
I don't know, could be.
If we were going to make a decision about this committee being disbanded, how would we do that? I mean,
Make a recommendation to the board of selectmen.
yeah,
and they will
I
act on it.
I haven't been on the board for very long, myself either, but in that time, I would agree with you, we haven't really accomplished anything. So to speak, I mean, there was lots of positive discussions and sharing of information like everyone's been saying, but I'm not sure that this is the only way that information could be shared and be effective, as Denise has been talking about. If we are getting the services that we need, and we need to change our line of communication so that it's spread out better to everyone being informed about that. I don't necessarily think we need this committee to do that.
The committee started, and I'm the last one standing from that in those days, but the evolution of it was Dick Zegda, wanted to, he had the idea to bring these services to Columbia, and he was already familiar with AHM from DCF days. And so, he had started some talks with Joel, and then dragged me in, and then Carmen Vance at the time. We had a facilitated dialogue here. I think they talked about that last time too. Dick Zegda and Joel, we had a facilitated dialogue, invited townspeople in to say, what do you think our kids need, blah, 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 whatever. But this committee was formed at that time when those discussions were first happening to figure out, does Columbia need youth services? If Columbia needs youth services, what do we need? Where do we get it? How much does it cost? And so Carmen Vance had charged us with putting together some proposals. So we contact 5 or 6 different towns and agencies and ask them for proposals on if you were going to provide youth service bureau support to Columbia, what would that look like and what would it cost? So we did all that legwork, but that was all part of our committees. At that time, that was our function. I contacted this agency, somebody contacted, whatever, that was our purpose and our function. And then AHM put together their proposal, by far the most cost effective and broadest range of services, not even close anywhere else. And they're right next door. So it was a no-brainer that's what made most sense. And so, put together the package, 5-pack financial approval, blah, 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 whatever. And so then I think we just kind of continued with our committee. Like we started joined AHM, we had our contract, and initially, I don't remember if it was 5-year contract or something, but our committee kind of just continued meeting. And I think in the beginning, it was probably like, let's see how this works. Is it going to work? We want to stay on top of, is it meeting our needs? Do we need to shift things or whatever? That was my impression. I could have been wrong, but that was my impression in those first few years. Just kind of monitoring to see how it goes, because it was new for us.
What year was that?
For some reason, 2011 is sticking in my head, but it might have been 12, no,
Around 10 years.
around 10 years ago, yeah. Yeah, and then, us lovely people here, so we do have our committee. I was always happy to come and see people and report back and forth. Yeah, but along the way, I definitely sort of wasn't really sure what our purpose was. And then when the conversation came back up again last year about do join full membership, I thought, well, you've got a committee of people who've been meeting all these years to talk about it, but then our board of selectmen didn't ask us a single question.
And I think it's because it hasn't been brought to the board.
Well, okay, so I don't, yeah, so,
So
and
it's
that's
not-
the missing piece. I don't know who or what the conversations were, but but what am I here for? Like, that's what I felt. Like, I feel like a slap in the face, to be quite honest. I've been spending my time coming here for years. And I'm going back and forth, and then somebody decides, oh, maybe you want to be full members. But they don't even consult this committee.
Well, what's weird is HM keeps saying every year, we'd love you to be a full member. And I push back and say, what does that get us?
Yeah.
Did you ask specifically?
Yeah, I'm saying you have to present specifically what a full membership gives Columbia. Because we're not in Raymond,
Right.
our kids go to 3 different schools. I don't see the high school component. And is there anyone over at E.F. Smith or Bolton from HM?
Oh, they're not stationed in the schools there, but like when Sherry had connections with those
Yeah,
students.
Sherry had my high school guys.
So she'd be the liaison calling up the guidance counselor.
And the guidance
A.F. Smith.
counselors knew her to call. If it was-
So that was the connection back to
Yes.
HM with Sherry.
Yes, yeah, and that was probably almost the only AHM sort of support that the high school kids have been receiving.
Unless they reached out for like.
Unless it was counseling at AHM, which they had the ability to do, or some of the
Or
support
do
theater.
whatever E.F. Smith.
Yeah, a
Well-
lot of them, yeah.
Well, Denise, I'm curious, like, say, you know, we can't go back in time, but say someone did come to you and they said, you know, we want your opinion, given you're part of this committee, like, what is your opinion? Or
My
Or
opinion
ideas.
has been, along the way, pretty much it has been, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Our kids are scattered in different high schools. But we're not gonna get the same kind of package that the Ram kids get. But through other discussions with Tressa, with AHM and Joel, you know, there are creative ways to have some programming for our high school kids. It won't look the same as the Ram kids, because that's ingrained in the high school, and ours just can never be. But there's opportunities, our kids still need stuff. If those high school kids need stuff, our high school kids need stuff. You know, that's a tough age, and there's lots of opportunities to support and provide things. But I would hate to
You
see
need it through here, through this committee.
oh, not, yeah, that's through an AHM thing, not through this
So the
committee.
question would be, is this committee something that would be able to do that, or is it, can it be done someplace?
My opinion is we don't need this committee. I don't think we need it. I think we have now a long established relationship with AHM. It can evolve and grow without this committee. Because it's gonna be based on what AHM puts together as a proposal and what the Board of Selectmen approves or doesn't. I don't think we have to have this committee do that.
I do want to say, when we talk about services for teens, I have a very limited view of it from I used to work at DCF. And honestly, there was, when children from Columbia came to our attention, I don't recall ever thinking of using AHM ever. And I was at the front end of the crisis part of that, and that was just not something that wasn't known. It wasn't known to the families, it wasn't known, and so at the end, when I was part of this committee and still working, I was saying, you know, there's AHM, you can go use that. But it wasn't anything for the families that we serviced during that crisis that they were even connected with that. Well, I did it when I recognized it, but not, you know, families didn't know about it. It wasn't the go-to thing when we're talking to kids in E.O. Smith.
Right,
That's not, or
yeah.
wherever we were talking to them, that's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
something that.
And part of it is the name, like you said, that's definitely a big part. My husband says that to me all the time. I've been involved with all this stuff since the beginning, and he still says to me, well, they call us in Columbia, because we don't pay. You're not gonna
Do
change
you think that it would be better promoted at the school, you know, like, it should be kind of common knowledge at the school.
I
whether
would have
it's-
hoped by now,
Yeah.
by this many years, So I'm not a marketing person at all. So like, I don't know what we could or should have done along the way.
We just put the flyer up on our website today for the play groups that they hold at Gilead Hill School.
Yeah, and the school has been, that's the only way we really got information out over the years, was the school would put it in their constant contact stuff when there was events coming up or whatever, and which is super helpful. Because that's gonna reach the families that we need it to reach. But even still, people don't know. And I would ask my friends, my kids are old, but I would ask my friends who have school age kids, you know, who live in Columbia. Do you know anything about AHM? What's that?
Again, the number of families, when they call to ask for counselors, and we say AHM, and they say, well, that's only for Angela Gibron. I said, no, it's.
Yeah, there could be some better marketing somehow. I don't know. If they could do one of the ideas, but this happened right before COVID, and so then everything's just dropped. But one of the things that had come up as an idea, just simple, not gonna fix anything, but up at Rec Park, when you've got the banners on the baseball fields.
Yeah.
With the AHM banner up there, Columbia is, welcome, whatever. Down at the beach, put AHM something up wherever you can, that, those places around town, that's where you need to kind of get the word out, but.
I think the question that we kind of have to figure out is this committee needed? And it sounds like the general consensus is.
I mean, I still feel like I want help. I need help. I see a lot of potential, and it doesn't have to be this group, or if this isn't the right fit for you all, that's fine. But when I do a program, I know like Park and Rec is going to post it. I know the town's going to post it. I know I can put it in the town newsletter. There's some resources I have to promote things, and I want to build on that more. Like Mark was saying, programs around social media, and I don't, Barb, I don't have a, traditional parenting class, but programs that are geared towards parents. I've gotten grandparents who maybe watch their kids who come to those, but I'm trying to figure out how can I get my information out to that parent group, to that kid group. How can I do my prevention work to that population? And that's where I'm taking any help, and the more I can learn very specifically about AHM, the better I'm going to be able to refer people to them. In my mind, it's a counseling thing. If you can get in, check with them, because mostly I'm working with people who financially might be having challenges. So I'm seeing everything kind of like through that lens, but that's where it would be helpful for me. But if it's, if we can't kind of feel like we're on the same, energy with that, then it might not make sense to have this group.
It sounds
I don't think, I hear that point, but I don't know that this group meets enough to start to help with that. We don't meet that often,
to me, it sounds like role clarification. So role clarification, Katie, for you, your role, how is that the same, and how is that different from the AHM social worker who's in the school? How is that the same, and how is that different from the school counselor? Sherry's filling that spot. So you've got kind of three similar roles. So what's the role clarification? And that's not this committee to determine. And I also think like role clarification for this committee. I remember when Dick was trying to force me to become the chair, and he's like, well, or I said something about disbanding in the committee, and he said, well, you can't because it's a town ordinance. I don't know.
It's in the charter.
It's in the charter that you have this committee. I'm like, well, that's fine, but what are you gonna do if I don't show up? But if it's in the charter, I need some role clarification on what's the purpose.
I'll go look it up. Right now. Tell you what it says.
But I do agree with you, Denise, and also Jack too, that a lot of times in the past, we didn't really do a whole bunch of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if, I mean, there's an opportunity to change that, but I don't know.
And do we need to?
Yeah.
Do we need to? Do we need this committee to produce something, you know, that isn't already sort of being, happening? I don't know.
While he's looking that up, I would put a mention out, there is services through DTF, there's a trainings on human trafficking for adults as well as for children. And that is a significant issue in our part of the state. So those are free, and if anyone wants that information, I know the people that would help connect with that,
The
because
school's supposed to do that as well.
yeah, there's free classes, trainings for adults, children, educational programming. There's a lot for that, just to make people aware.
And they're often via Zoom, which is easy.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Katie, I don't know, have you met the new AHM person at Porter yet? Oh, she
No,
just.
I haven't.
Oh, okay, yeah, because maybe that connection. She's new, so she's not like she's gonna have a lot of information to give you, but the two of you together, you know, figuring out, defining those roles and sort of helping each other maybe.
Katie, have you met Kristen Spear, our social worker?
You know, when I first was hired at Columbia, I reached out and, you know, we had a conversation and we've touched base a couple times. Yeah.
It does sound like you're sort of, you know, you're sort of out there and maybe working really hard, and you just want to make sure that it's again gonna be productive.
Yeah. You know, and it's easy to kind of get into our own areas of focus and responsibilities. And I just know, like, I'll have funding for prevention work. So, you know, I kind of jumped on when you're saying you want to do things for prevention and development. So there's potential there. I am curious, Barbara, like the hub, like when you said like Porter's the hub for like high schoolers, is that just kind of like a casual thing, or like they actually formally come back?
They come back, so in the morning, buses go out and pick up all students.
Oh, I see what you're
They
saying.
arrive at Porter, they get off the buses, switch up, go to so it goes to their right high school. And that's how it comes. They come back from the high school to Porter, get off the buses, switch up and pick a bus home. Until they can drive, right?
Yeah.
So the prevention grants that you're talking about, Katie, is that substance abuse prevention or any prevention?
So the one we received last year was a portion of it was for vaping prevention, and a portion of it was for mental health.
Okay.
Yeah, youth services doesn't seem to be in the charter, so it must be totally created by the board of selectmen.
That was created by Dick Second.
So not being in the charter, it's a lot easier than that.
Now that also helps explain why there's no clearly defined purpose.
Jack, just while you're here, can I ask you, like, if I was trying to reach high schoolers or, you know, with information, or parents of high schoolers, do you have suggestions of what you think is effective?
I mean,
Social media, right?
yeah, social media is a really big way. I feel like probably the most prominent, for people my age is something like Instagram. Like if that was something, and I mean, even,
For the parents, I would think that page that's like everything
yeah,
Columbia,
Columbia
Facebook thing,
is a big Facebook group.
and almost all parents are on that.
Yeah, I see agents sometimes they'll put something on that page, so,
The town does too.
yeah.
Now,
So could this committee, would we even have to, could this committee make a motion or a proposal to disband, and or do we even need to if it's not even in the charter? I
It
don't
must have
want,
been created by the board of selectmen.
I feel like it was, well, Carmen was very involved at the beginning, made us jump through a lot of hoops. Yeah, but I don't know, formality wise, I'm bad about the formality stuff.
I mean, I'm just curious, like, is there a reason like why people came today or like want to do something in particular?
Well, I can speak for myself, so I must have said something to my mom at some point, and she, and she said something to Mark. You know, but I think. that
Which
there-
then is why I called you.
Yes.
With a birdie talking to me.
Conversation. And, you know, during that conversation, it was like, well, we should at least figure out what we're doing, you know, not so much that, you know,
And Bill also,
oh, well, yeah.
just want to make sure
Yeah,
we gave it a shot.
I know, poor Bill.
Fade away.
I know, he worked so hard. And then he really did. He did all the legwork. He worked really hard. on it.
So he's got, you know, I'm sure he didn't want to resign and have a part.
Right.
Right.
I know. And truthfully, so for me, you know, talking about sort of the evolution from my own perspective, but I wouldn't, for me, coming year after year was about making sure that our contract and our connection with AHM was maintained. I didn't want to see that fall apart because I raised kids in this town when there weren't any youth services and perhaps we could have used them. So for me, it was a big win to partner with AHM. And so I didn't want to see that fall apart. In my conversations with Judy and through that process, which I did find very frustrating, not because of Judy, but just the background of it. I was convinced that I don't think it is gonna fall apart. I think that if anything, it's gonna grow, not disappear, our Columbia and AHM connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, that's why I'm sort of now feeling like with this committee, if that is firmly established, then I don't feel the same sort of need to be on the committee to.
Well, I know AHM mentioned too, they felt that there was a disconnect with the Columbia residents. And they're not participating as much in the fundraising activities
That's been true since day
for
one.
AHM.
Yeah,
So solving that is another challenge.
that could be I hate to say this, but that could be a purpose.
But again, are most of the fundraising opportunities through RAM?
No. And I would bring back to this committee every event that was coming up and talk about, you know, the golf tournament, the dinner at Gina Marie's, the
raffle.
the raffles, the auctions, and especially now with, you know, everybody's doing more virtual stuff and there's virtual auctions, and so that could be anybody, anywhere, you know. It's about the lack of Columbia townspeople feeling connected to AHM, knowing that we're connected and feeling connected. I think that's what it's about, you know.
Are you getting these notes now?
I
She
wrote
got it all. I
Okay.
know, yeah.
I sent a bullet thing.
I think Mark might have been kidding.
I mean, I'm like happy to share AHM's information. The last Christmas, I made sure any of their swag information brochures went out to families, and I'm happy to continue to do that.
And families who need help can be referred to AHM too. You know what I mean? Not just the fundraising, but the other way too, you know.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, that
Oh,
people can't give, but
yeah. Okay.
families who are receiving gifts who were in need.
So it's not in the charter.
Not that I can see, I'll do my own. Find out, what the enabling. It must be, which I've now, what we're trying to do, all these ordinances, the Board of Selectmen create, they kind of live in different places. Jen and I are trying to consolidate them into an ordinance book, so that Because what happens when people come and go, you
Yeah.
lose the history
Right,
of what the board has done.
right.
Unlike charter, which is a written document, or our ordinances, but not our ordinances. Our ordinances are locked in, because that goes down to the town clerk. It's the board of selectmen. What do they call them? They make it one. They have a term, but it's not an ordinance. They're doing a board of selectmen. It's not a procedure.
I have no idea.
Whatever it is. But I think this was created through the board.
Yeah, okay.
So I need to find the enabling motion to create.
Would it be on the I do remember getting sworn in a couple of times, not in years, but would it be on that document? The swearing in kind of
While
stuff?
you're all talking. I knew about it.
So there are members missing. I would like to see if, you know, what they think.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
It could, what do you think about an email to all of the the committee members? Posing sort of the issue or the question and asking each for a response, one way or the other, like just to make sure everybody does respond.
right.
As sort of a vote, but electronically.
Not the BCC.
Well, yeah, I mean, they would respond to you privately or whatever,
Right.
but yeah,
Yeah,
So that
I
each
like this
person-
idea because that gives people, you know, that aren't here in input.
yeah.
You know, we kind of talked amongst ourselves about what we felt that this committee, was needed or not. One thing I would really encourage is that if this does not continue, that we definitely fill your seat on the board with another Columbia person.
Anybody interested? Newly retired people? No. Newly appointed chairs, who don't have to chair anymore.
I would be willing to do that if. Yes, I wouldn't do both, but
I did enjoy my experience with that, I really did. But I did do it for about 10 years and it just, you know, like
Okay.
stuff, you know, you just,
understood.
yeah, so, yeah, that would be awesome. You might be the chair, then leave, and the shortest period of time, whatever, put it on to the next one.
A lot of experience very quickly.
Yeah, see, just build up that resume.
And there's the other thing about this committee is if there is the sense that it needs to stay here, does it need to stay here for the number of meetings? Is this an annual meeting?
I think if it's a town committee, I feel like, and
They
it could
have-
be wrong, but
well-
that there's a minimum requirement for meetings or something.
Well, that's like, I guess, to bring that up too, because what if it's just an annual meeting?
Right,
Yeah, or even, like
yeah.
twice a year
Yeah,
where we're
right.
planning an event or.
yeah,
I can't find
okay.
gender.
Okay. So we were just talking about possibility of outside of this meeting, sending an email. I'll let you explain what you're.
Yeah, so we were talking about, you know, we wanted to make sure that the members that weren't here also got a chance to talk about, you know, the committee and, you know, whether we're gonna continue the committee. So sending an email to everybody, and just asking for their opinion, kind of what we were talking about tonight,
Great.
and asking for, you know, them to respond
Okay.
privately.
Well, Barbara, if you could give me your bullet points, I have notes too, and then we'll kind of
I'll type them up for you. You won't have to read mine.
merge into some sort of minutes and then, Rebecca, if you could put together kind of like the challenge. And then
Sure.
Jen and I will get it out to everybody
Okay, yeah.
and look for their thoughts.
And if you could check with the selectmen and see.
Yeah, I'll do my homework of how did this get started and what were its enabling like charter mission,
Yeah,
so we can see.
And if people wanted this committee to continue, can it be an annual or a biannual? Can we meet 2 times a year instead of? So if people wanted to do that, maybe that would be a way to keep it, but
That could be an option, so,
Yeah.
you know, when I craft that email or, you know, put that summary of this meeting, I can give that option for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And what I did say too, Mark, is that if this does not continue, that I'm willing to, go, you know, be a part of AHN on the board if they have.
Oh, good.
Yeah, right.
Which is yet another reason to just be in this committee.
That's more important.
Yeah, that's more, I think it is. I do think it is more, important. That has a little, yeah, I think it has more value to have Columbia representation there. Than us just talking about amongst ourselves in this room and then, you know, nothing, don't have an annual report.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, AHM does annual reports that are very thorough and they'll break it down by town and, you know, the number of Columbia residents that participate in JRB or this or that or whatever. So, yeah, you know, there's a lot of info sharing like that, but anyway.
Good.
Motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
6:45.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, take care, everybody.
Everybody spell their last names, you know? K-R-I-S,
TOFS,
I forgot, right? Yours, I think I know.
MORELL.
And
One R, 2 L's.
One R two L's.
and Allen, ALLEN,
Rebecca's R-E.
REBECCA, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, I was so difficult in opposition. Sorry.
Appreciate your frankness.
And
All right, thank you.
I will, craft an email